So good evening, parents, students and staff. Welcome to the Year 10 Work Experience Parent Information Evening for 2024. My name is Neil Gregory. I'm the head of Year 10 at the college. Could I ask that all mobile phones just turned off, please? We'll begin with the Year 10 prayer. Lord, I shall pass through this world but once. Any good, therefore, that I can do, any kindness that I can show to any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer nor neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. Mary, our good mother, pray for us. St. Marcel and Champagne, pray for us. St. Mary of the Cross McKillop, pray for us. May we always remember to pray for one another. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. I'll start with some information about what our Year 10 students have been doing in pastoral care lessons so far. The major focus at the start of the year is getting organised, using the diary, setting academic goals, setting a personal wellbeing goal, and completing a study planner for a minimum of 10 hours of study per week. Yes, that is correct, minimum of 10 hours per week. Digital and mobile device expectations. Behavioural, uniform and grooming expectations have also been a high priority. The Elevate program starts this Thursday, which will assist in the areas of personal study and organisation and performing well in exams. We've now moved into the next phase of the pastoral care program to prepare students for work experience. This marks the start of the careers program that prepares the students for subject selections in Term 3. Boys have had which is Vocational Partnerships Group. Their representatives outlined the requirements for work experience in Week 5, Term 2. They are currently working on the Be Work Smart document, which also prepares them for work placement. This evening you'll hear from Mr. Rob Anderson, our Careers Advisor, Ms. Tanya Andersich and Ms. Fleur Sprute from VP&G. There'll be time for discussion at the conclusion of the presentation. So I'll hand over now to Mr. Rob Anderson.
Thanks, Mr. Gregory. Great to see so many of you here. Just as a starter, I think it was a quick head count. We've got about 75% of the Year 10 population in attendance tonight. So that just shows how much, one, at Saints we value it, but as parents that you're showing great value in this experience that's coming up for the boys. The whole experience is purely about them getting a feel for the workforce. It's not necessarily about them making a career decision. It's about them understanding the requirements of being in the workforce. And some of them may have part-time jobs, but some of them may be stepping into the workforce for the first time during this experience. So I know with the amount of questions that I've had over the past 2 weeks, that there is a lot of excitement in the student body about going on to this work experience placement in Term 2. First thing I'm going to do is just introduce to you some of the key dates, which I think is what many of you are wanting to know and get your head around and create some timelines. In the newsletter that went out last week, these same dates are in that newsletter if you're after a hard copy, and we'll also be sending out this presentation, the recording, as well as Tanya's YouTube video of her presentation to you guys all via email in the coming days this week. So you'll have a backup if there is something that you don't quite take home tonight. All right, so on the screen, if you can read that effectively enough, is basically the breakdown of dates for work experience this year. So in the first week, the boys had their VPG presentation and an outline of their requirements. And we do make that emphasis that a lot of this is their requirements. We're wanting them to actually take on board a lot of responsibility for what needs to happen through this process. So on the 25th of January, they had their presentation. We're obviously here tonight to go through the parent presentation with you. And then next week, over Thursday and Friday of next week, the boys will have their interviews. And Tanya will go through this in a little bit more detail, but they had to treat that essentially as a professional job interview. So they'll need 2 documents at that. One is their VPG application form, and the second is their completed resume. So those two documents are crucial that they bring them along to their interview. From there, we go on to the 29th of April. Okay, so there is a bit of a gap between their interviews and then their placements. So that VPG will come back to us on the 29th of April at the start of term 2, and the boys will be given their placements. Now, it's obviously, I wouldn't like to be in Tanya's boots, to be honest. It'd be quite daunting to be trying to fill 140 placements in the space of a short period of time. And obviously, there's a lot of demand in a lot of industries, and Tanya will go through that in her presentation. So we try to give the boys the best work experience placement as possible, but it's always not possible to give them exactly what they want. So Tanya will obviously do her best in that space. The quick turnaround, and probably one of the most important things here, is the next line there, from the 29th of April through to the 3rd of May. So that's basically on the Monday they get their placement, and by Friday we need them to have contacted, met, and had paperwork signed with their host employer for the week. So that is a quick turnaround, because if you have a look at those dates, the 3rd of May, if we roll that out to the following Monday, that's the 6th of May, which I think is the long weekend from memory. And then the following Monday, they're on work experience. So it's really important that they get that paperwork done and back, okay, that week before work experience. So we're not running short on time to make sure that all the legalities and the documents are signed off on. Then finally, 13th to the 17th of May, they've got a full week, 5 days of work placements. So during that time, as Tanya will go through in her presentation, there will be visits from VPG, we'll be touching base where we can with some of the host employers as well. So that's pretty much all I want to touch on at this point in time. What I will do is I'll hand over to Tanya Endicic from VPG, and she will go through in a little bit more detail what is happening from their end. And then obviously once she does her presentation and rolls her video, we'll have time for any questions that you guys might have. So I'll hand over to Tanya. Thank you.
Good evening, parents and families. Thank you so much for attending our information session today. It's an exciting time for your son to participate in workplace learning. And Year 10's that year where we start making lots of ideas, exploration, and we're going to start crystallising what they want to do as they move forward into the really important senior years. So it's no mistake that this program is embedded in the Year 10 curriculum to help them through that process as they start to navigate careers, jobs, and explore that space. So VPG, our role is to support the school and your son in workplace learning. So we like to think of ourselves as the main point of contact in the program to help navigate this space. So what's going to happen today is I'm going to play a short presentation about our program that goes into length about who we are, what we do, the steps in this process. We'll talk about industries, we'll flag the important interview that's occurring next week here at the school, and then we will do a Q&A session after that as well. Okay, thank you.
Hello everyone, and welcome to VPG's Workplace Learning Program Induction Session for Families. This session today will review the program at length and discuss your students' participation requirement in our program. You may be thinking, who is VPG? Vocational Partnerships Group is a local youth organisation, and we have been working in the Cairns community for over 20 years, supporting young people in their employment and training journeys. To date, we have arranged over 30,000 placements, and we roughly arrange 1,500 placements here locally in Cairns every year. So we consider ourselves the gurus in this field. Schools prefer using VPG as we incorporate up-to-date labour market information that is managed by qualified career practitioners. Our program identifies the young person's skills, strengths, capabilities and interests to ensure they are placed with the most suitable employer and industry. We conduct a mandatory face-to-face interview with every single student participating in the program. and VPG's program is the preferred method of placement coordination amongst employers locally. So our role is to ensure that all legalities and placement requirements are met and followed by all stakeholders. Additionally, our role is to source these work experience hosts for students and conduct all suitability checks. Workplace positions are arranged by VPG based on industry appropriateness to school study, transport and location options, and the completion of the VPG application form, providing a resume, and the student's performance at the interview. VPG will be there every step of the way as students navigate through the process, supporting them with any questions or concerns that may arise. Your school contact for the program is Mr. Rob Anderson, Work Experience Program Coordinator and Teacher. His contact number and email is on the screen. If you need help with any work experience program requirements, please contact Mr. Anderson. Your VPG contact for the program is myself, and my name is Miss Tanya Andersich, and I'm the Senior Work Experience Officer at VPG. My contact numbers and email is on the screen, and if you need help with any workplace, industry information or availability, please feel free to contact me at any time. So how will the program benefit your student? So workplace learning is a hands-on experience and valuable opportunity to obtain transferable skills, learn about the working world and its relationship to your students' educational and vocational pathways at school. Workplace learning is a short-term placement with a work experience host that will give the student an insight into the industry and its duties. They are placed with the host to observe and learn, not to partake in activities which require extensive training or experience. As the world of work continues to evolve, savvy job seekers are increasingly relying on their transferable skills to move into different roles and industries. So what are transferable skills? Transferable skills are a core set of skills and abilities that will transcend any organisation or role. So if your student can identify and harness their transferable skills during workplace learning, it will help them stand out in their future job searching activities. So benefits of work experience include a reality check. They get this opportunity to test a career or job, explore career options, including non-gendered stereotyped occupations. They'll develop positive transferable skills, knowledge and attitudes to work, which supports successful transition into further training and work. They'll have access to up-to-date careers information by asking host employees questions directly. They'll gain a better understanding of the work environment and what host employers expect. We are wanting this opportunity to help them grow in their confidence, maturity, and self-reliance. This experience could lead to employment and training opportunities in their senior schooling, and this experience will help them add more content into their resume. The VPG program involves active planning and participation. Students will need to research, identify, and provide 3 different local industry areas to participate in the program. Families have a vital role in the successful delivery of the VPG program. So by taking steps to understand what is involved, you can help the student get the most out of workplace learning and make important decisions about their future career pathways. Here is a clip to get you excited about the workplace opportunities available here locally.
Work experience has taught me how amazing and different a work environment can be.
Work experience has taught me how to own my own business and all the ups and downs that goes with it.
Work experience has given me a good insight in everyday life and just how important law is just in every aspect.
Work experience helps me see what the workforce really is. Work experience has influenced my interest in aviation.
work experience inspired me to do something in the medical field.
Work experience has taught me heaps about diesel engines and how they work. I'm really excited to learn more.
Work experience has given me an overview of how the business side of a sports centre runs.
Work experience has developed my understanding of electrical engineering.
For all students participating in our program, they must undertake our three-step program procedure. So step 1 is to attend a VPG interview. So our interview is compulsory. VPG is unable to arrange placements for students until they have submitted their VPG application form and attended a face-to-face interview. Now, these interviews will be conducted during school time at the school, and the exact times will be advised by the school contact prior. Step 2, the student needs to attend the placement delivery. This is where placement information and instructions will be provided by VPG, and the session will occur during school time at the school. After the delivery of the paperwork, please note that the student will need to arrange a meet and greet with their host employer. All insurance paperwork must be signed at that time and returned to the school before the student commences the placement. And step 3 is to attend the placement. So attendance is compulsory every day. If the student happens to be unwell on placement, then they must call both the employer and the school before their shift commences to advise of any absences. Now it's time to discuss industry areas for your student to consider. So there's lots of diverse ways for your student to go about finding somewhere to undertake workplace learning. Encourage them to explore their skills, know their strengths and weaknesses, and use school subjects and extracurricular activities as a guide. We have encouraged the student to talk to family, friends, or people working within the industries of interest. We've asked them to search online and browse through online job ads to look for work experience providers that are available here locally. So here is a snapshot of industries that can offer work experience locally. Now I must stress that these areas are just suggestions. There are many other industries available here locally that we have not listed. So if you know that your student is interested in other industries or occupations, please motivate them to request or discuss these industries during their VPG interview. So how do we define a core industry? So these are workplace providers who employ more people here locally, and their placement availability is greater. They are more open to hosting secondary high school students, and there generally tends to be pathways available to young people straight away. So these industry areas include education, early childhood, retail, including fashion, supermarkets, and specialty stores, construction, and the many different occupations within that industry, including cabinet maker, painter, plasterer, plumber. We have automotive, hair and beauty, hospitality, working in cookery, back of house, or service, front of house, veterinary science, community service, butchery, administration, metal fabrication, and pastry chefing or bakery. Now here is a list of industry areas that are considered limited in our program. Now this may be due to workplaces being smaller industries that hire less people, or they undertake freelance work and work from home. Many are also immensely popular industry choices for students, and there's simply not enough places available locally to host students. Now these workplace providers expect students to have some level entry knowledge. They want the student to study a relevant subject at school and be aspiring to study that area after high school. Some of these areas include law, architecture, engineering, media, science, allied health, graphic design, and information technology. So no matter if your student is interested in a core or limited option, they must provide a resume at the VPG interview. If your student is really keen to try to secure a sought-after industry and workplace, they may want to organise a direct placement. This means reaching out to that host employer, providing them details of the program, including dates, the school, and then letting them know that VPG is managing it. Ask for a business card or print out an email thread and give that to the student to provide at the VPG interview. VPG will then contact the host and confirm the placement after the VPG interview occurs. Here's a list of industry areas that are not permitted in the VPG Work Experience program. This includes TV stations, acting, funeral parlours, mining, tattoo parlours, nightclub and security, medical and your general emergency services including police, fire and ambulance, pilot, air host, air traffic controller and airport ground crew, psychology, psychiatry, forensic science and social workers and counsellors, abseiling, whitewater rafting, canoeing, diving and bungee jumping. It is due to public liability insurance not covering these areas, or that these areas are not permitted due to client confidentiality, unsuitability, are just unavailable for young people in general. You would have noticed that your student has arrived home with the VPG application form. This is the time to sit down with them and review the contents of the application and to discuss their program requirements. Everything that is mentioned in the session today and the student induction that was conducted at school already will be provided in the application form. A couple of points I would like to discuss. Firstly, it is an important life skill to know how documents such as this are filled out. That is why we want the student to fill it out themselves and not their parent or guardian. We also request personal information on the application form, including medical information, medications, and supports required if it will impact their involvement during placement. As we are legally required to advise our host employer if it will impact the placement, please ensure that either the student or yourselves reach out to VPG with further information so it gives us the tools to best support your student in the program. As this information is not provided by schools due to the Privacy Act, we need students and families to advise us directly, either by the application form, in the VPG interview, or parents contact us directly. Also included in the paperwork is our Code of Conduct, Privacy and Media Permission Form, and a program guide for families that has an extensive program details and frequently asked questions section. The student is expected to read, sign, and return the completed application when they undertake their VPG interview. Your student has two options when filling out the application form. So option one is they need to list 3 different industry areas. Or option 2 is to fill out the details of a placement they directly arranged. So if your young person wants VPG to arrange their placement on their behalf, they need to provide 3 different industry areas that they're willing to try. VPG will then use their interview, resume, host availability to find a suitable opportunity. Please note that some areas are extremely limited. Therefore, they must be willing to try any of the industries that they nominate on their application form. The interviews will occur at school during the day mentioned on the screen. The interview is an integral part of our program, as it provides VPG the opportunity to meet the student in person, find out what their skills and strengths are, what are their likes and dislikes, and get any other information they may have missed on their application and resume, so we can match them with the most suitable workplace. We want students to treat this like a mock employer interview. So we want them to turn up prepared by giving us the completed VPG application form and a hard copy of their resume. We will then discuss the students' 3 options and why they have selected them. We will discuss transport and placement locality options. We will discuss the students' 3 options and if those options are similar and appropriate. Post-interview, we will review the students' performance by ticking over things like appearance, communication skills, turning up with a great attitude, and having some knowledge of an industry. If the students miss the interview during the scheduled time, they may come to VPG's office to undertake the interview during their own time. For those really limited and sought after locations, VPG will look for the best candidates based on their interview performance. So, how can parents help? There are numerous ways families can assist in the program. You could utilise your local contacts and networks to assist sourcing a placement for your student or another student in the cohort. You could talk to them about career options and what is available locally. Encourage them to consider as many realistic options as possible. Help the student understand the employer's goodwill in offering work experience placements. Encourage them to have realistic expectations about the type of work they'll be undertaking. Help them identify their strengths and core skills and help link them to jobs and careers. Encourage them to research careers and jobs via websites, social media, or even looking around their local area. Help them organise safe travel to and from work experience. Help them with workplace entry requirements such as uniforms or tickets. And please notify VPG in the school of any health matters and conditions that may impact their work experience placement. It's an exciting time when students first enter the world of work via workplace learning. Workplace learning programs enable students to enhance their classroom learning, assist in career choices, and building their industry and transferable skills. So by taking an interest and providing support to your student throughout the process is a vital role in the success of the program for your student. And that brings us to the end. I'd like to thank you for your time and attention today. If anyone would like more information or has program questions, please reach out to me at any time. This presentation will be available on VPG's YouTube channel for you to review shortly, and the link will be provided by your school contact. Thanks.
Thank you, families, for tuning in to that presentation now. So before we open the floor to do a Q&A session, I just thought I'll mention a couple of points that tend to come up when we have these information sessions. So first of all is aviation and placement opportunities in that area. So as you would have heard me mention before, anything that requires high security clearance, technical training, so on and so forth, which generally means working on the domestic and international sites at the airport. We generally can't place students there for work experience. However, over next door at general aviation, we can 100% support your young person in doing a placement either in mechanical engineering or avionics, so working on aircrafts in the hangar, using tools and supporting the engineers on site. So just wanted to clarify that is absolutely available, and you would have seen a clip last year of that young man going to GBR helicopters and doing a fantastic placement there as well. Another thing I wanted to mention is that on the form you may have noticed that we ask where you work or the suburb of where you work. And that really assists us. If you don't want to put down your place of work, that's fine, but if you can put down the suburb, that really does help VPG in us matching your son to an appropriate workplace. Because a lot of you may live out of town, on the south side or north side, but if you have an indication that you work in the city, that would open up a few more doors for us if we know that transport would be easy for your son to get from, you know, Clifton Beach to the city or out at Goldsborough through to the city. We ask that question at the interview. We make a big point of it. We ask, you know, how are you going to get to and from work experience? We ask them who is going to take you. Is there suburbs that you cannot travel to? But sometimes adding that little bit of extra information on that form can really assist us in matching you, and maybe there might be a really great suitable host employer that previously we thought maybe not suitable or available because they said they couldn't travel there as well. Last point I'd like to mention before we open it up is placements in medical. So I know we have a lot of young people out there who, especially after COVID, are seeking a pathway down the health industry, and that's something that we 100% love to see and support. But we do have restrictions around where we can place that young person in medicine and medical. Generally speaking, most doctors and specialists here in Cairns won't take an ad hoc Year 10 work experience request unless they happen to know that student or that family, and they may have made an arrangement to do a one-off work experience request. So generally what we consider a direct placement. So if you have those networks or links to someone in that industry, and you know of your son or someone in your son's cohort who would like to be linked up, then if you could leverage that, that would be great, and we would 100% support them in doing a placement there. However, if you don't have those links and your son is still interested in that pathway, I would highly encourage them to look at allied health options, which is 100% available in this program as well. So there's some great options here that would have some transferable skills that they could gain in that space. Or if you have a budding son who wants to be a surgeon, maybe even looking down the veterinary science pathway as an option for your son to gain that clinical experience as well, because our vets are very fantastic and get the young people heavily involved, and they do sometimes give them the option to observe surgery. So it's a really good way and a safe space for them to work out very quickly if they can handle that environment. Some of the questions we ask if a young person is interested in veterinary sciences: can they handle needles? Because we've had many instances in the past where a young person wants to be a doctor, thought they could handle needles, they see a needle being administrated, and then things go black, if you know what I mean. So a good way to kind of work out if that's the space for them in a very safe and regulated environment that's not around other humans it's more regulated. So I just wanted to clarify that as well. So I'd love to open it to the floor and answer any questions on our program. I think there's one at the back. I'm just going to get a quick drink of water.
Is it working? There we go, we're working.
Know if they wear their school uniform to the interview, or should they bring a change of clothes with like a tie and a proper shirt, etc., for the interview?
That's a good question. If you didn't quite hear that, do they wear their school uniform, or they bring more general clothes to the interview?
In the past, we've had young people who have decided to get changed for the interview and wear a more formal dress attire. However, with the St Augustine's uniform, it is a nice formal uniform, so that is absolutely permitted for them to turn up in uniform. But yes, absolutely, if they want to make the effort and come dressed up, we would love to see that at the interview. So yeah, that's not a problem for us at all. Don't be shy. Any other questions? Yep, there's one over here. Oh, and one there too.
So the question was, just for our recording, sorry, is the school helping out with the resume building? If you don't mind.
Yes,
Tanya supplied us with what we call a resume builder, which the boys have access to. We've made them aware of that. That's now been put onto their Year 10 teams. So it's a step-by-step process where they identify what they're good at, what their interests are, and they just work through that, and the very end of it is then about them structuring their resume to put that together. So they do have a resume builder on Teams.
Just to add, it would be great to see the young person just be a little bit more, not so specific in their pathway requests on their resume. So I'll give you an example. Like, if we meet a young person and they think that they want to do this industry, but after we chat to them, they would seem more suitable and more highly enjoy their second industry, but their whole resume is tailored to that first one, when we start sending that off to host employers, it can be a little bit of a barrier to get them into that workplace. If they see, oh, this young person wants to be a nurse, but I'm a dentist, I don't think this is going to be suitable, when after our discussions it's very clear that this would probably be a better workplace for them. So they can just have their resumes a little bit more open to the other industries and kind of more focus on their skills and their strengths and what they can bring into that workplace, as opposed to their desire to be a dentist or desire to be a doctor, and just keeping a little bit more light on that career snapshot that you would have at the front, if that makes sense. Yeah, okay.
I was just going to ask in terms of timing for the days, do they start when the workplace tells them and finishes when the workplace says?
Yes. So by law, they are permitted to work a full-time week. So there's some workplaces who will absolutely make them work up to 40 hours, including, they get their breaks obviously, and if they have a 6:30 start time, the expectation is they need to start there. So at the interviews next week, we will ask this, if they want to work in an industry that we know starts early, we will ask them, how are you going to get there at 6 o'clock in the morning? Who is going to take you? Have you asked mum and dad or the boarding parent or whoever it may be? You need to have these discussions now and let us know, otherwise we will be very reluctant to place you. So a lot of the trades would obviously have early morning starts, so something to keep in mind. A lot of your PT, personal trainers as well, have early morning starts. A lot of hosts, especially in the technical fields, tend to offer students school hours, work experience schedules, which kind of helps out all parties here. But if you have very strict transport requirements or limitations, please let your son know so they can let us know, and that'll be one of the top things we have in mind when we're placing them in a workplace as well. So yeah, they need to let us know they can travel, how they're going to get there, can they do early morning starts. So whatever that industry is, the expectation is that they should be doing those hours as well. Another one is something like hospitality. So we have a lot of budding chefs out there, especially after all the programs we've had on TV. A lot of restaurants and hotels tend to have dinner shifts and functions and stuff like that in the evenings. So at times the student may be asked to do an afternoon and an evening shift as part of their participation in that setting. So something else to think about that as well, is that what the industry expects will be required for your son.
For that information. I just had a question about the agreements that the host employers have with either VPG or the school. So are there particular, say, hours that the students need to be exposed to the particular career, so they won't be stuck in a mailroom, sorting room, if that's not what they're,
Not so much that they have to have a certain amount of hours with the task. Generally speaking, we know there's a lot of tasks that might be repetitive and boring, but we want that young person to get a really good insight into that workplace, and hosts don't want to put students somewhere where they're going to be discouraged and they're going to hate, because it's not going to work out for everyone. So generally speaking, our hosts are wonderful and they just give them the most amazing exposure to that workplace. A lot of them will have them in certain different departments if it's available, or they're budding up with a certain different person during the week. So I guess for you as the families, if after maybe day 2 your son comes home and say, hey, I've been sorting out mail, which there's not much mail these days in person, but if that's what they say, call us straight away, because that, to me, there's something wrong and we need to intervene and work out what's going on, okay? So we want them to be exposed. Most of the times young people are coming home, they're so exhausted from how much they've had to do and this new world of working literally full-time hours, that they'll be exhausted and want to have an early nap. So yeah, but if the other way is that they're coming home and they're not being fulfilled and they're doing some tasks and they haven't had much exposure to that industry, let us know ASAP so we can manage that, okay? And there's someone at the back. Oh, yeah.
For the sciences, is it just like what kind of science is it? Is it like chemistry, like chemist, or like physicist and stuff like that?
Okay, so if you're interested in science, what I want you to do is jump online and kind of maybe work out what our region is known for in regards to science. Okay, so I'll give you a bit of a tip. We kind of are a bit of an agriculturally based centre here. So a lot of our science placements tend to be based around that. So like Department of Agriculture, Fisheries. We have a few different private labs as well that take students in chemistry. Our large learning institutions here in Cairns like JCU that offer different kind of placements in the science field. So that's kind of where we are at with science, if that makes sense. So anything that's like astrophysicists, that kind of pathway isn't so much available here in Cairns, but anything that's more like chemistry and biology, that's kind of centred around agriculture, is offered. Okay?
That's it. Any more questions? No, we're looking good, Tanya, I think.
Well, myself and Fleur, we will be available to answer any face-to-face questions if you didn't want to ask it in front of the group. I have some business cards here, so if you have any, you want to take a business card and go home and have a chat to your son, have any questions, please feel free to email us at any time. We really love to see parent and family engagement now at this process before the interviews to give your son all the tools that they need to prepare them for the interview. Because once we start interviews, we just jump straight into it and we start placing the cohort ASAP. So if you can get them sorted now, sit down with them, get them understanding the process, help them prepare for the interview. We're all very friendly at VPG and very supportive, and if your young person is a bit anxious and shy, we understand that that's part of this, and we're here to help them and get as much information as we can out of them. Because our guarantee to the community and what makes our program so great is that we have met every young person face to face. We've got a good understanding about who they are before we would feel comfortable in placing them into a workplace. So yeah, this is the time to sit down with them, have a chat and help them prepare for that interview next week. Yes? Yes?
They put in that they've arranged a direct placement.
Yeah.
Do you also want them to put their preferences?
Yes, because at times things fall through. Now there's a couple of reasons why. If it's a new host, and once we start chatting to them about what they need to do and what they need to provide, like supervision, that kind of stuff, sometimes that can put things in jeopardy. Or sometimes we have fantastic hosts who have taken a lot of students in the past, but something has come up and they can't take them for that week when they've already agreed to it. So it'd be good to have those preferences there as backups. Generally, we would think that whatever the workplace they're going to is that industry that they're probably most likely seeking. So we would kind of look at that. But if there's any barriers, we would always reach out. If a placement falls through, we would reach out to the young person and their families to let them know. And just another thing to add is that once we start doing interviews, we then start communicating with students quite regularly. And when we do, our preferred method is email, because that way they can see it any time, especially at school. If they're in a study period, they can log on and see an email. And during that time, we always CC one parent email, as well as the school contact, which is Mr. Anderson. So you'll see that as well, just in case. And it'll either be myself or Fleur who'll be communicating to that young person. So we might need something extra from them. They might need to meet the employer first before they agree to it. We might flag these hours or that location. It could be multiple things. So, yeah.
Just wanted to ask if there's other work experience in later years at school. Is this the main time that it happens?
Yeah, great question. This is the main time that we do it as a cohort. I'll give you the example. My daughter's in Year 10 at St Monica. She's going out in a couple of weeks. She's very interested in defence, for example. So defence work experience placements are rather specific about when they have them. So she's looking at doing some down the track. She will do a normal placement through VPG, but in that situation. She will do another one at certain times during year 11 or 12 if they're looking at going out maybe during the holidays to try and get some work experience in an industry that they may have lined up. By all means, come and see us, but we still, it is a work experience type situation. They still need to come and see me in my office, and we need to do our part in that process just to make sure we've got everything ticked off from our end.
So generally speaking, most of the high schools here in Cairns will embed it in their Year 10 curriculum, so they take the 5 days off to participate in workplace learning, and then once it comes to Year 11 and 12, generally speaking, school holidays would be available to them for work experience. But I just want to add, like, whilst we treat the Year 10 program as light, it's about gaining transferable skills. We've had lots of young people get some amazing outcomes out of this program. So not only, you know, casual employment or whatever that may be, we've had cadetships available to them when they've left school. We've had full-blown apprenticeships offered in this Year 10 and senior schooling. And we've had young people gain entry into their preferred university courses because they're able to show a positive evaluation from their experience, and that's been in vet science and medicine as well. So whilst it's a light and it's an exploration task here to learn and get those skills and be in a workplace, there is some really amazing outcomes here for young people as well. So it's good for them to give it 100% in this program, because you never know where this outcome's going to lead for them once they finish school. So.
Just following on from that last question,
Yes.
which I was also wondering as well, because my son's got quite a varied sort of little ideas going on. Is VPG available to help with those other in-school holiday placements at all?
Generally speaking, we would refer them back to the school because they still have access to the Department of Education and Catholic Diocese, Department of Education Public Liability and Catholic Diocese work cover. So what I would do is refer them back to their school contact. So that would either be their vet coordinator, whatever they may be. But if they're struggling or need some hints on workplaces to contact, we are very much an open book, and we would be happy to provide those links to the school to match that young person to that workplace as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it might be a wrap. Okay, well, thank you so much, families, for taking your time out on a Monday to participate in this induction. Myself and Fleur will be available to answer any questions, and thank you so much.